Well, good afternoon and welcome, everyone. My name is Josette Mitchell. I'm the Chief Operations Officer at Swope Health, and I want to thank you all for joining us today as we kick off our virtual speaker series in celebration of Women's History Month. Today, we are honored to be joined by Mayor Ella Jones. Mayor Jones has served her community in a variety of capacities over the years, to include being a member of the boards of the Emerson Family YMCA and of the St. Louis Metro Market, which is a decommissioned bus that was retrofitted as a mobile farmers market to provide fresh fruits and vegetables to underserved communities. She's the founder and chairperson of Community Forward Inc., a nonprofit community development organization. Mayor Jones has been a resident of Ferguson for more than 40 years. She graduated from the University of Missouri at St. Louis with a BA degree in chemistry. She was certified by the American Chemical Society as a high-pressure chemical chromatographer and completed training as a pharmacy technician. After 30 years of being a Mary Kay sales director and serving 22 years as a pastor in the AME church, Mayor Jones resigned her Mary Kay directorship to serve her community full time. In 2015, she ran for and won a seat on the Ferguson City Council, being the first Black resident elected to the council. And in 2020, she made history by being elected the first Black mayor and the first woman to serve as the mayor of Ferguson. Today, we welcome Mayor Jones.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm excited to be here. This is National Women's Month, and it is a time to celebrate the women of the past, the future, and the present. So being the mayor of Ferguson, it is a very rewarding experience. But first, let me tell you how I got started. Back in 2014, during the unrest of Michael Brown, I have always been a member of a Democratic club. And so when the unrest started, several of my friends, they came to me, Congressman Clay at the time, Senator Claire McCaskill, Michael McMillan of the Urban League, Patricia Bynes, who was the committee woman for the Ferguson Township. And they asked me to run to be a councilwoman in the city of Ferguson. And I'm like, come on, you all, get for real. I've just completed pastoring church for 22 years. I wanted to do something different. My husband had just passed away. And I'm like, I just want to work my business, just have fun. So one of my friends who is a minister, Reverend Tommy Pearson, he called me up one day and he said, now, Ella, what are you going to do since Tim passed away? I said, well, I just want to do my business and just have fun. He said, well, you need to get up and do something. So I thought about it. I said, okay, the Democratic Party had been after me to run for the seat, for the council seat in the city of Ferguson. I said, okay, I'll do it. So I worked with a couple of people. I had a dynamite campaign chair, Leslie Tolliver, and we worked to get the seat. I had 3 opponents. And everyone was saying, oh, Ella Jones not going to make it. She too quiet and she this and she that. I didn't say nothing. I just continued to knock doors. I have learned that you show people what you do instead of talk about it. So I continued to knock doors, got discouraged several times. And I would call my campaign manager and I say, Leslie, I don't think I could do this. She said, go out and knock 20 doors and come back and call me. And I would go out and knock the doors and they say, oh, I could do this. They, people, they just people. So out of the election, I had 3 opponents. I garnered the most votes. I won with 858 votes because everyone knows that a municipal election, the turnout is very low. But at this time, back in 2015, the turnout was really high. So I won the seat, and at that time, I was first African-American woman to win the seat on the council. And then my journey began. I just continued to work in the community. And when I thought about it, I said, okay, I need to do something. I can't continue to run the business and try to work in the community also. So I resigned my commission as a sales director with Mary Kay Cosmetics. And one thing I am very pleased with and excited about. So when I resigned, the president of Mary Kay called me and said, Ella, we had been watching the unrest in Ferguson, and we knew you would be the person who stepped up because of the training in leadership and everything I have done in the church. Everybody knew it but me.
Yeah.
So when I recognized it, it was like, oh, we knew you could do it. So I just resigned, started really working in the community, kept a seat for it's a 3-year term. I won my second term. And in 2019, they came back to me again. Ella, you need to run. I said, now look, you all want me to be mayor now. Okay. So the first time I ran for mayor in 2017, I lost, but that's okay. People say I lost, but I learned, and I learned by, it was just a 500 vote difference. So back in 2019, they came to me and said, okay, you're gonna run. I said, okay, I'll run. And my opponent at the time was Heather Robinette, who is now still on the council. And I just did what I normally do. I just go out and talk to people. I love people. I consider myself a servant leader. So I just love people. But one thing I've learned in this life, people are not interested in how much you know until you show them how much you care. And that's the main thing I did, was just talk to people, show them I care about them, and just transferring all my skills that I've learned and just being a good servant leader. And here comes the pandemic. Whoa. If you thought that you can be a leader and lead like you have done in the past, you just set yourself up for failure. This pandemic has taught me that it has to be out of the box thinking. You have to throw away that manual that you had and create something new. People were calling me, Mayor, I don't have any food. My job done closed down. I had to find ways to help these people feed their families. Immediately, I went to the Urban League, Mike McMillan. And I told him, I said, Mike, I need some help to feed these women and their kids. So Mike began to bring food, deliver food to me for the people here in Ferguson. And I thought about it. And I said, okay, he's doing that for me. Let me call the other mayors. And so I called all the mayors in North County where we are. I said, Mike is bringing food in Ferguson every Tuesday to give out. Come on over and get some of this food to feed your family. And from there, it blossomed. The Urban League have served over 300,000 people. That's a lot of people that were needed food for the last year and a half. And the Urban League got donations from all over the United States. And they even gave my nonprofit Community Forward a $10,000 grant to help the people. And the nonprofit decided that they were going to buy thermometers. They purchased 500 thermometers with the grant from the Urban League. and knocked on doors to make certain that the mothers with children had a thermometer, and not a traditional one, but push the button, take the kids' temperatures, our senior citizens. My senior citizens, I'm very passionate. They were homebound. We made certain that we delivered their food to their homes so they didn't have to come out. And those that needed to go to the doctor, we have great community leaders, such as my neighborhood leaders. Those men got together to make certain that those seniors went to their doctor's appointment. So it's just working with the people who want to work with you to make the community a better place for everyone. And everyone been bringing it up to my attention. You know, your council, it's all women.
Yeah, I noticed.
It's all women. And you know, and I share with people all the time, do we get along all the time? No. If we got along all the time, then I'll be feeling everybody's forehead to figure out what's wrong with them. But we work together as much as we can to make this community better for everyone. Right now, we're working on bringing in affordable senior housing. And on the 22nd of this month, we should pass the bill to bring it in. It's a $10 million project that we bring it in. Our parks department, they had to do things differently. We couldn't do the various activities and rent out the spaces. So they began to do everything online. For Halloween, I thought it was phenomenal. We decorated one of our largest parks, had people come in with Halloween decorations, trunk or treats. We had service over 2,000 cars. People were lined it from Forestwood Park, which is on Ferguson Avenue, all the way on West Florissant, almost to 270. That's how popular the Halloween project was. Then my fire department and my police department, I love them dearly. They thought about Christmas. What are we going to do for Christmas? And they came up with an event, Santa and Sirens. And every Sunday they would drive around the neighborhoods, and the kids would come out and meet Santa, and he'd have gifts for them. So we just did a lot of out of the box thinking to keep the people motivated, keep them to the point where they're not falling in depression, but let them know their local government care about them. So just doing what I need to do to help this community to continue to move forward.
So you mentioned that, people came to you wanting you to run for mayor, but what was it that you were passionate about that made you say, I want to do this and I need to do this? Were there particular things that just were really in your heart that drove you to run for mayor?
What really drove me, I really, really wanted people to feel like that they were a part of something greater than themselves. And when I say that, a lot of people in Ferguson felt like they were not included in the process. And I'm under the impression when people know what is going on, then they're more apt to support it. And I always share with people will support that which they create. And they were not in the decision-making process. And right now we have more African Americans sitting on the boards and the commissions. They know what's going on. They are taking an active part in the council meetings. Even though we are on Zoom, we have the numbers that the people are coming out. They want to be a part of something greater. They care about their community. They care about their neighborhood. And when we're out working with the children, working with the seniors, neighborhood stabilization is important. Having people to talk with your neighbors, get to know one another, and try to work together, because no one is going to come into Ferguson and do anything for us. We are the ones that are going to have to stand up for our community, work together in order for it to be a good place for our children to grow up. That's one of the reasons why I moved to Ferguson, because my husband was working at McDonnell Douglas, which is now Boeing. And we were in the city, St. Louis City, and they wanted to bus. I said, no, I'm not going to allow my kid to be bused to school. I walked to school when I was young. It taught us our social skills, how to get along with people. So I wanted her to experience the same thing, the opportunity to walk to school. So she walked to school. I was a PTA mom and all the good stuff. But it made a difference. And even now, people want that same quality of life for their children. They want them to be able to walk to school, get along with the other children at school, and then play in a very safe neighborhood.
So you mentioned that we have a lot more African Americans in office and decision-making positions in Ferguson now. And so I want to talk a little bit about the death of Michael Brown, the fatal shooting in 2014, and ask you about the power that I believe was likely birthed from that tragedy. Is that what you're seeing now? Is this what happened from that?
Yes. Picture Ferguson back in 2014, when the Ferguson Police Department was predominantly white, maybe one or two Black officers. Driving while Black was very heavily policed here. I remember they stopped me one time until my husband went around the corner and talked to him. You had people who was disenfranchised. They felt like they were a Black ATM machine for the city. When the fatal shooting of Michael Brown happened, I equated all the time to a pressure cooker. You put all that you want in the pressure cooker, the food and everything, and put the pressure cooker on the stove. If you do not put that lid on that pressure cooker correctly, and when the heat hit the substance, it's gonna blow. And that's what happened here. It was a pressure cooker that blew. So people began, even myself, people began to realize we must make some changes. And so we began to move forward. We began to talk more with one another, began to go to different town hall meetings, having critical conversation, courageous kind of conversations with outcome, not just sitting there, and just realizing that the power needs to be shared. Because when Michael Brown was fatally shot in 2014, the council was all white and only one Black person on the council, which was Dwayne James. So in 2015, I ran for council. Wesley Bell, who is now our prosecuting attorney, he ran for council and we won. And the people began to realize that there is hope. We can make a better place for our children to live and for us to live. Then we got a Black police chief, Delrish Moss, from Atlanta, from Miami, Florida. And when he came to town, he said, I want to do everything I can to help. I said, well, Chief, I love to walk and talk, and I do. That's held over from my Mary Kay life, walking and talking. So I took him around to the various neighborhoods to meet the people in the neighborhood. And the most heartfelt is when we knocked on the door of a senior. He began to cry, and he embraced Chief Moss, and he said, now I could die in peace.
Oh, wow.
It was so touching. He said, I never believed that this would ever happen in Ferguson, that we would have a Black police chief, and I could die in peace. And when Chief and I left there, people were just coming out of their homes. And when they realized that I was taking them around to the various neighborhoods, we had an entourage. People just would be walking with us. And we'll get to certain neighborhoods, people will fix food and feed us. So
Wow.
it was that hope, despair moving, and hope moved in to let people know, yes, it's okay. We will have people who are in the leadership position that will care enough about us.
Yeah, I heard you say hope, relief, empowerment. That's amazing. What about, so Ferguson, likely there were lessons learned from that, right? And so how have the changes in Ferguson, in your belief, helped other cities in Missouri and probably across the nation?
Well, we are in a consent decree with Department of Justice.
And talk some about that, Mayor Jones, what that is.
Okay. Congressman Clay went to the Department of Justice and asked them to do an investigation of the Ferguson Police Department and their practices. So when the DOJ finished with the investigation, they found that the Ferguson Police Department was treating people very poorly. People were disenfranchised, everything. We would, as I say, we would drive in while Black, the Black ATM machine. And so Ferguson had to rectify some of those practices that they were doing and instill constitutional policing. So right now we do have a new police chief. We have been through 5 police chiefs in less than 5 years.
Wow.
So the turnover has been great. The same way for city managers. But anyway, the police department had to come up with new policies, the way in which they stop and search and frisk. Community engagement, they had to get out of their cars and start engaging with the people in the community. From there, we have Southeast Ferguson, where all of the people were concentrated, the poverty in Ferguson. They began to realize that they had a voice, and they started the Southeast Ferguson Neighborhood Association. They started working with the police department to do back to school programs, do different food giveaways, to let the police officers come in and mingle with those people, which make a difference. So every year for the last, I say, since 2015, we have had a huge back to school giveaway where we service over 2,000 children, and it's sponsored by the various businesses all over the city of St. Louis, and it's held at the Emerson Family YMCA. Samaritan Feet came in and every January give out shoes to our young people. So all these agencies came in and continue to come in to say they want to partner with Ferguson, walk beside us as we continue to heal this community. Sometimes I feel like, you know, when you were a young person and you scrape your leg, and when the scab began to grow, you sit there and pick it up, pick it off, and reopen the wound. Sometimes I feel like that happens here. Sometimes when we feel like we are making a lot of headway, moving forward, something drags us back, but we are a resilient people. We know how to bounce back, and we continue to move forward. People do feel empowered because I'm just looking at the people who are stepping up to serve on these various boards and commission. Our neighborhood police steering committee is working. They help do the policies for the police department that satisfy the consent decree. So the people are working. The consent decree was supposed to last 5 years. We are in our 6 years. There are some things that we didn't do or we have not completed, but hopefully we will get everything completed by the end of the 6th year.
Wow. Well, and I imagine you've had other cities reach out and trying to understand, you know, what you're doing and the impact that it's had so they can do some of the same work in their cities to see some of the same results, building more of a community alliance.
Well, we have become a model for all the cities in the United States. We are a model city because the programs and the policies that we implement here in Ferguson, they are taken away to other communities. And right now we have a new program going on with Washington University, and they call it Town and Gown, where Washington University has put a lot of practicum students in Canfield Green, where Michael Brown was for the fatal shooting, where it happened over there. And they're working with the people in that area, social workers. About a couple of months ago, Canfield Green changed hands to a new owner, and he decided that he was going to evict 100 people. You see how I look? A couple of ladies called me. I said, "You gonna do what?" And I went over there and I talked to him. And I told him, I said, "Now, sir, you don't know me and I don't know you, but you're not going to put these women out on the street with their children. I'm not going to tolerate that. I'm not going to have it." He said, "Well, what do you want me to do? I need my rent and the repairs." I said, "Well, let's work together and find a solution." I say, we need to find a solution. It is not putting these women and children out on the street in the cold weather. That is not going to happen. So he did work with me. We went back to Washington University. They have a group that came out to mediate and find out how the people can continue to pay their rent. St. Louis County came out, the health department came up with emergency funds for these people to pay their rent and food, everything. Urban League stepped in. So he did not evict these people.
Wow. Wow. I mean, that's amazing.
He and I talk. He talks to my office manager all the time. "How's Mayor Jones doing?" And she said, "Well, she's doing great so long as she doesn't have to come over there and visit with you."
But for you to go down and talk to him and convene this kind of togetherness amongst your community to figure out how to problem solve this and not to end poorly, that's great.
Right. You know, I always consider myself as a problem solver. There's a solution to every problem. You have to be willing to do the work to get to the solution. Sometimes the solution is not always visible, but if you're willing to put the work in, you're going to find a solution. And so it's just putting the work in. That's all. I know some of my counterparts on council people on the council say, I'm overdoing the job. I didn't know it was a set time. I didn't know I was supposed to do it a set time. But how can you overdo something that you love and you making a difference in people's life? You know, they say I've taken the part-time position of mayor and turned it into full-time.
Oh, wow.
I'm pleased.
Well, and if overdoing your job means that somebody's not out on the streets with their kids, then overdo away.
I do. I really do. So
What are your goals going forward to maintain some of this positive momentum that you've built regarding your relationships in the community across Ferguson?
well, with goals going forward, of course, the affordable senior housing, that's top goal to make certain it get off the ground in the next couple of weeks. Then looking at the fact that we do have ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act, working with the city managers and the other council people, trying to find an equitable way to distribute the funds, because these are one-time funding that the federal government has given us, and Ferguson has been allocated $4 million. We have received the first allocation of $2 million in October. So we'll be working by the end of the month to find the best way to allocate these funds to improve and maintain a good quality of life for our residents. So that's a big project. So we had town hall meetings, we had surveys. So now we're ready to work together and roll out various programs for the residents. I'm looking at the fact that we still have people who are disenfranchised, people who still need that extra care. Coming up, you know, we put in a budget a social worker, where Ferguson will pay a third of the salary, Washington University will pay a third, and United Way. Hopefully we can employ a social worker where they will be in charge of our Human Services Commission. And we will have our residents to sit on it. Hopefully we'll get more business people to come in, social workers, and help us look at trying to lower the poverty rate here in Ferguson and really look at it long term. We know it's not a fix that can happen overnight, but if we continue to see grants and different funding, we can help some of these families lift themselves out of poverty and become homeowners. We have a seminar coming up in April for first-time homeowners, how the real estate companies are going to work with people who want to be first-time homeowners and stay with them 5 years after they are put in a home, so they would know the things that it would take to maintain a home. So we just don't want to put them in a home and then the next year they're in foreclosure. No, we just want to keep them in there.
Yeah, those are some wonderful plans. I'm a social worker, by the way, Mayor Jones. So
Okay,
it sounds like a good idea.
Come on, move down to St. Louis.
Back to this being Women's History Month, can you give advice to women who aspire to be in political office?
Well, my very best advice to women who want to be in political office: first, know what you want. Know who you are. When you know who you are and whose you are, then people are, you will not be easily swayed by other people. It's okay to think of something on your own and work with it. And it's good to be around people. And I share, you know, I had an opportunity to speak at the National Women Political Caucus training session for women in politics. And one thing I shared with them, you surround yourself with people who going to uplift you and be able to help you to see a vision. And I just plainly state, I'm a number 10 on the leadership scale. Hang around 12s, 13s, and 14s. These are the people who are going to lift you up. But if you're a 10 and you go hang around with a 2, you're going in the opposite direction. So surround yourself with positive people. Make sure you have a mentor. And you don't have to do this 24/7. Find your girlfriends who are not politically inclined and they just want to go out and hang out with you. Then you hang out with those people. And all make certain you take time for yourself, by yourself. It's okay to be by yourself. Because my mom used to tell us all the time, you were born by yourself, so it's okay to be by yourself. So, and just, if you want to run for office, go volunteer on someone else's campaign so you can get the gist of how to run a campaign. That's my advice.
Good advice. What have you learned as mayor?
What have I learned as mayor? Everyone is not going to follow your leadership.
Even as mayor, huh?
John Maxwell tells this story a lot. He said, when you're in leadership, it's like a train leaving the station. And the leader say, all aboard, all the ones who want to get on that train, they're going to get on the train. At the next stop, some people gonna run to get off, but you're gonna have more that's going to come on. So it's okay that people don't like my leadership style, but however, I know that when my train leaves the station, when I say all aboard, I'm not gonna stop until it's time for the next stop. And so some will come on board and you have a lot that will stay and a lot that would leave. But my goal is not to look back. It's to always look forward. And so I'm just going to keep moving forward. And the ones who want to work with me, we're going to work.
Yeah, and people will hop on and off along the way, won't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
very much so.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to see if we have any questions in our chat, if you don't mind. I'm trying to multitask a bit. Feel free to drop any questions or comments you may have in the Q&A or the chat. Okay, here is one. Mayor Jones, how did your experience being a Mary Kay director and being a pastor help you transition to your role in public service? That's a great question.
Oh, I took all my skills with me. Being a pastor, you must be willing and able to listen to people. When you go visit the sick, you don't have to do all the talking, let them talk. I learned how to listen. That's the most important thing I've learned from being a pastor, and showing people that I genuinely care about them. That's what I learned from being a pastor. Mary Kay taught me, it honed my skills of working with people with different personalities. I know who I am. I know my personality. I may come across a constituent who has a totally different personality than I have. It is not my job to out-talk them. It is not my responsibility to try to show them that I know more than them, but my responsibility is to mirror their personality. She asked me a question, I'm going to repeat the question to her. If she talk real slow, I'm going to talk real slow. It's just learning how to work with different personality styles. And that's the key to leadership. You have your own style, your own leadership style, but you must recognize other people, personalities. Don't down them because they're not like you, but celebrate them because of who they are, and find one thing that you all will have in common where you can really hold them an honest conversation. Those are my skills that I transferred over.
Thank you. Let's see. Looks like we have another question. It says, did you have to turn in your Mary Kay car, and do you still use their products?
Well, and when I was a Mary Kay sales director, as a senior sales director, my unit did on an average $238,000 in a single year. I was a premier car driver. I owned 7 cars. And when I resigned from Mary Kay, I had to give them their car back. They wouldn't go let me keep it. I did work. So I did turn in my car with Mary Kay, but I still use the product, and I may not be working as a sales director, but I am a Mary Kay consultant. I
Okay.
keep my consultant status active, and all the work I did when I was a Mary Kay sales director, I'm still getting paid for it as a consultant. So love the product.
Oh, looks like another question. How do you manage so many demands as mayor and still find time for yourself?
Well, what I basically do, I talked about surrounding yourself with people. I have 3 volunteers and 1 independent student. And what they do, they help me keep my schedule. They help me to know what meetings I need to go to. When I come back from a meeting, I file the information. And if I need some research done, they would do the research for me. And I don't work all the time. People think I do because I'm a widow and I live by myself, but I don't work all the time. My favorite stories, Bull, that come on. I love the swamp people on Thursday night, and I love NCIS. So I make time to get in my recliner. I don't drink soda anymore. I get me a cup of tea and I just watch my stories. And then I have a girlfriend, she calls me every other week. It's time for us to go shopping. Oh Lord, I go power shopping, then we eat, have fun. So I'm always out and about having fun. But on Friday at 5 o'clock, I turn the city computer off.
All I heard you say was power shopping. You said power shopping.
Power shop. I do a lot of power shopping. But on Friday at 5 o'clock, I turn the city computer off. I do not turn it on again until Monday at 9 o'clock, because the weekend is my time to do what I want and how I want it. If I need to do something or someone need to get in touch with me, they better text me because I'm not going to answer the phone.
Yeah, I heard you say you got good boundaries and you protect your time and you do take time for yourself and you use your resources when you need to.
Very much so.
All right, let's see. We have time for maybe one more question. No, I think I got all the questions. I'm sorry, I'm trying to manage technology and talk at the same time. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to share with us? It's been an amazing talk. Loved hearing from you.
Well, I just would like to shout out to my good friend, James Hill, my accountant. He's like, Mayor, I need you to do me a favor. I say, for you, James, I'll move a mountain. And so I just want to thank him for giving me the opportunity to be here today and talking with you. My last thought is have fun in this life. Have fun in this life. Do the things that's going to make you happy. Because of the last 2 years in this pandemic, it made me realize that life is too short to go around mad with somebody. I'm not mad with you. If you mad with me, you better get over it, because life is too short. And you don't want to leave this life with all your music left in you. Pour it out. Let people see who you are, and embrace your family. Embrace your family, because when we move out of this pandemic, the only people we're going to have is our family. Love your family. That's it.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you for your time today. Thank you for joining us and helping us to recognize the vital role of women in our history, and for letting us celebrate you as the first
Well,
Black
thank you.
female mayor of Ferguson. And to everybody who joined us today, thank you for celebrating and learning with us. Join us next week on a Thursday, though, March 17th from noon to 1, as we're joined by Dr. Marvia Jones, the director of the Kansas City Health Department and Kansas City's first Black woman health director.
Oh, great.
I know. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Mayor Jones.
Thank you for having me.
Have a wonderful day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.